On the first turn of the game, usually your best move is to hit this build city button right here with your settler, right where he is. If you don't do that, you need to understand why you're not doing that. The reason you want to do that is the sooner you get the city started, the sooner you can start working towards your first settler, your next city. Uh, every turn you wait, the rest of the civilizations will get ahead of you. Um, Now that said, let's talk about why you might want to move the settler instead of settling where he is. Um, you can do a Control Shift M or go to the menu and say Clean Map. And you can peek what's underneath your settler. Right now it's just plain grassland, but what if he were sitting on top of wheat or cattle? That is the first reason you might want to consider moving, is if he's sitting on top of a food resource. That is very powerful, and you usually don't want to settle on it. Almost never want to settle on top of a food resource. You'd want to move over a tile and then be able to take advantage of that food resource. Um, Another reason might be if you're on like see this little tick here? This is a bonus grassland. It's an extra shield. You got a shield here where most grasslands you don't get that. If you're sitting on a bonus shield or some other high shield tile, you might consider moving, but it's not quite as critical as the food. Um, a third reason would be if you're one tile away from water, either be at the river like this, if I were one tile away from it, or if you're one tile away from a coast, you might want to move either towards or away from that water. Being on a river or freshwater, so coast can be freshwater, so you can kind of check to see if they have two food or not. If they're two food, they're freshwater. But if you settle right next to fresh water, like a river, your city can then grow to size 12 without an aqueduct, and that's a very powerful feature. So if he spawned over here and was one tile away from the river, I might consider whether or not I ought to move that turn to get on the river for the long-term advantage. If you're one tile from a coast and you think it's a sea coast, you might want to step towards the coast to settle on it so you can build boats with that capital, or you might want to take a step away from it because let's pretend this hill was a coast, and maybe this is coast too. Your city is going to grow to work those tiles, but it won't be on the sea, so it can't launch there, and it can't build a harbor to get the full food benefit. So usually being one tile away from a coast is not the best idea for city placement. So that's another reason you might consider moving either towards the coast or away from it to get more workable land area. And even in some cases, if you think you're two tiles from fresh water, like a river, or if you like use a scout and you find some fresh water, I might even on some occasions move two spots to go settle on that water. But it really depends on the situation. Like again, if you have a scout, maybe there's not a wheat here, but I have a. Do I have a scout here? I do have a scout. So if you're an expansionist civ, you might want to take that scout, move him a couple places. I'm going to move him to this hill right here. See, he's seeing more stuff. So he just revealed a lot more land. If this wheat wasn't here and there's a wheat, say, up here, or even over here, it might very well be worth moving towards that bonus wheat or cattle to get the food bonus. So those are really the only situations in a regular game where you start at 4000 BC and you want to grow big and win that way, where you'd want to move the settler. If you're doing something like a 1 city challenge or 5 city challenge or some other variant with your own rules, then you may have reasons to move. But basically, if you don't hit this build city button with that settler right away, you should know why you're not doing that and have a good reason for yourself. So once we do that, I mean, I'm not on a food bonus here. I'm not on a shield bonus. Setting on a luxury is fine. unless it's also a food bonus or shield bonus. And settling on a commerce bonus, a gold bonus is fine. You still get those bonuses if you settle on them, but you don't get the food or shield bonus if you settle on top. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this city. So that's, and then pick what you're going to build first. Usually it's going to be a scout or warrior, and then set your research. I'm going to hit F6, and you should have kind of a research plan. I'm almost always going straight for Republic. I mean, I don't pick it all at once, or in some cases monarchy, because once you get out of despotism, you can make a lot more money and you can make a lot more use of your land. So usually I'll go with alphabet or writing if I have alphabet. But basically just have your plan in mind. So once you pick your target, go into your F1 screen and set your research slider. Usually you probably go either all the way to 100 or down to like very minimum, where you get just one shield per turn in science, or one gold per turn in science. This is the minimum research strategy. I'll talk more about research strategies in other games, but usually you don't want this halfway. You usually want it all the way or down to the minimum. For this, now, also adjust your luxury slider. You probably want it at 0 most of the time, unless you're on like a very high level. I think once you get to a certain difficulty, your very first person is unhappy, you have to use the slider, but that's well past Emperor, right? So generally just make sure it's at 0. And then the next thing you want to do, figure out which is your most powerful tile and move your worker towards it. I've got a bonus grassland here with 2 food, 1 shield, and 1 gold because of the river. And then I've got a 3 food and no shields. So at first, they have 3 factors of production each. So you might think they're equal, but food to me is much more powerful in the early game, because if we're working that food tile, we're going to grow faster. Usually you grow in 10 turns, but now with the food bonuses I have from the wheat, and also for being agricultural, I get a bonus food for the city tile. So I'm going to grow in 5 turns. So as soon as 10 turns, I might have enough for a settler, for food anyway. So I'm going to favor usually the food tile, so I'm going to work it right there. And that's basically your first turn. That'll get you on the right path. I'm going to do some more videos on the first 80 turns. Probably go 20 turns at a time. So do check back. I'm going to start uploading on Wednesdays. We'll see you then. Thanks.